You're mad. Sometimes you don't have that luxury of thinking about your mental health because you have to be that provider. You have to be that person. But you never stop and think about yourself and you being that happy person as well. And I know that when we were planning the show, I know you have those questions, so I'm not going to talk on that because I know you're going to talk about that later on. But the reason I'm saying that it hits home to me is because I've learned to stop and think, am I okay? Do I think correctly? Am I going to make an erratic move because somebody cuts me off and when I'm driving?
Again, coming back to the question, like, what are you doing in this journey?
Yep.
Yeah, but it's also trying to understand. I'm saying this is a long term, and you're trying to make sure that you incorporate that in your lifestyle. So if you make sure if having more time is what makes you at peace, then make sure you continue that practice.
All right. What, man, welcome back to the United Podcast Show. Season 2, episode 1. Man, we so happy to be back doing this. Missed it. Sorry, so sorry that, we took so long coming back. And, man, we're going to jump into this great topic today, but I have to introduce my brothers. Got to start my brother, Ray. Man, let us know.
Yes, again, we're back, season 2. As you can see, renewed energy, renewed topics. This is going to be the same job, but with a better flow. Let's go around.
Yes, sir. So I'm gonna kick it to my man Manny Mo.
Thank you, brother Chuck. Appreciate you, man. Listen, excited. Season 2. Let's get this money. Let's get this paper. Let's share the knowledge without borders. New background. Thank you for the producer, Ray.
Yes, sir.
Love you. Let's keep it going.
Let's go.
Man, can't forget my man Eddie. Yo, come kick it to us. Let us know.
Well, first and foremost, like always, man, thank you to all our listeners, our subscribers. You guys motivate us to keep on going. This is our second season. We had 28 shows for the first season. I'm just very excited to start this off. We have a lot of new topics. We have a lot of things to talk about. I'm not going to take any more time. Yo, Chuck, set it off, brother.
Yes, sir.
Let's go.
So listen, man, we have a very important topic that, it's talked about all over. So our topic today is we're going to talk about mental health. So this is something that impacts everybody every day on, morning, noon, and night, no matter where you are, how old you are. This is something that, it's a bad problem that we have here, just worldwide, not just here in the United States, but it's worldwide.
So often neglected. Yep.
Yeah. Oh man. And that's an understatement. So today, what we just want to, reach out to the people and talk to the people and go, hey, maybe the things that we bring up today may, something that you may be feeling and that may be impacting and that you may, need help with, but you don't know how. And, maybe, by listening to us today, that may be able to help you. So
that's right.
Let's dive into.
That's right. Let's go.
Yeah, and before we dive into it, I just want to add this, right? So as always, right? So we're really speaking from our art. We're not experts in this particular field, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to talk about things that are somewhat common. But one thing that we like to do on our show is we like to provide resources, and then we will do that as we add into the descriptions and everything else. Again, this is something that we want to make sure that it's an ongoing conversation, right? And as Addie said earlier on, the feedback that you guys put in is what we want to spit out there, always with some guidance and some resources, if anything. Okay. Right back.
And man. So, yes, sir. Well, it's always well said, right? So, just given that we're in this whole pandemic thing, there's a lot of mental, health awareness that's probably come out in everyone's home, and not knowing if you had it or not. You're now starting to feel a certain way that you've never felt before, and you don't know, if you should talk to somebody or not, or how to deal with it. So I'm gonna, I have some questions that I'm gonna throw to my brother. So, maybe one of these questions may pull something out of you, may make you aware of them feelings you may
spark
be
something.
having.
Yep.
Yes.
Let's do it.
So, but what I'll do is, just like I said, starting with the pandemic, being stuck at home for almost 2 years now, right? Whether you're single, family, something within you came out that you've never felt before, and you don't know if you should talk to somebody, so you start, stuff like that. It becomes, as they call it, mental, it makes you think more, right?
Question your psyche and stuff.
Question your psyche. So I'm gonna throw this. During the pandemic, being home with your family, what were the things that you saw different, I should probably say, in yourself that you've never really felt or something like that before? I'll throw that to you, man.
I realized that I actually like my family. No. I'm making light of it, but I actually, So we get caught up in everyday chores, errands, work, and we do allocate some time. At least let me speak. I shouldn't say we. I allocate some time, or what I think is a sufficient enough time, right? But during the pandemic, it kind of forced you, to spend a lot more time with your family, and to kind of check yourself. And being that I was limited to the places that I would go and I really needed to go. I really connected a lot more with my family. So that was a positive for me. I didn't hang out as much. I was home a lot. I did a lot of work around the house. So that was a positive side of it. And the negative, I'm a very social person. I like to interact with my brothers, people. I do real estate, so I needed that, and that was a big adjustment for me. A lot of the Zooms. I mean, another good thing that came about was the United Podcast show. But yeah, a lot of adjusting. I have to say that very respectfully, I don't feel it did a great number on me like that. I adjusted. At first it was tough, but I adjusted. But I want to say something, Chuck. I don't want to confuse the pandemic with mental health, because even without the pandemic, there is mental health is an issue. And I know that's a great point that you're making. But let's remember, there's two different things.
Of course. But that's what I'm saying. When I pose the question, we have to start with the pandemic, because before that, right, everybody was going about their normal lives. So, that mental.
To piggyback off of what Manny's saying, I think that, yes, these two things are definitely separate. But I think what the unfortunate event of last year and late into 2019 made light to is all of these underlying issues that maybe in the past were neglected.
Correct.
And not really paid attention to.
I agree.
Now it's at the forefront, where it is manifesting in different ways, where you have outbursts in, going, like people are losing their temper because, somebody cut them off the line.
Very small things.
Very small things, right? So, and these are the things that we're trying to understand. These were root causes that were maybe, say, oh, this is a normal day things. You could just knock it off and you'd be fine, because you could go somewhere else to try and relieve yourself. But during the pandemic, you were somewhat confined, and you had to basically, some people, unfortunately, some people had to face it head on. Some were successful, some were not successful. So to your point, Manny, you're right. Is we need to make sure that we're not, always associating it to the pandemic, but this was always a situation,
like you said, neglected. Before. Maybe it was just neglected. Of course.
What do you think, Eddie?
This is a very serious topic. I think it hits home to me, and the reason I say it is because sometimes we don't realize that we need this mental health. If we're not mentally healthy, then it affects everybody around us, right? And sometimes our lives move so fast. Yeah, during the pandemic, you're right, Chuck. During the pandemic, things got a little heavier. they got heavier because people lost their jobs, so it added to that mental, right?
Yeah, that's serious, yeah.
You know,
Mental check.
people, you know, just how are we gonna survive this next day? You know, people getting sick. You know, we were stuck at home, but this is something that could have been happening even before then, right? I know sometimes, if you're a man, sometimes you don't have that luxury of thinking about your mental health because you have to be that provider, you have to be that person, but you never stop and think about yourself and you being that happy person as well. And I know that when we were planning the show, I know you have those questions, so I'm not going to talk on that because I know you're going to talk about that later on. But the reason I'm saying that it hits home to me is because I've learned to stop and think, am I okay? Do I think correctly? Am I going to make an erratic move because somebody cuts me off and when I'm driving? Do I have the you know, the ability to make a solid decision and not make that mistake? You know, we talk about it all the time. You know, there's a very thin line between, you know, sanity and insanity.
So,
it
but
only
then
takes one little move.
But
yeah,
that,
go ahead,
but that leads into one of my biggest questions, right?
I know. Right, go ahead.
Right. So by you saying that, it's like, okay, you actually led that into like maybe this is the major question, right?
Spit it out, brother. Let's go. Let's
Okay.
Let's get it.
So listen, this question here, it makes you just drop everything and think about it, right? Because then it goes, how are you handling your own mental awareness, your own mental health, right?
Because we want to define what it is. What is mental health?
Yeah.
Right.
If I don't know what it is that I need to feel or know or act like, then it's not projected in my mind. Like maybe I don't know that I'm supposed to think a certain way, or maybe I don't know that I should be working on certain things in my mind, or just right. So what I'm looking for right here, and I'm having a hard time finding it. But why don't you go ahead and pass that conversation?
But let me touch base on well, Chuck, real quick. So along what you're saying, think about it though, right? When you do answer the question, Chuck, who defines that you are okay, that you are well, because you're not doing nothing out of the norm? I mean, you have artists that do things, you know, that people are like, oh my God, he's crazy or he's brilliant, right? Who defines what's that the person is not saying, right? That's the other question, right?
That's
well, but also too though, but you think that the question is, how are you handling your own mental health, right? So this is when you go into and you ask yourself, you go, damn, you have to get those. You got to get that hour or so to yourself to kind of sit down and reflect and go, hey, am I okay?
Yeah, but you might be crazy, right? Or you might have issues, right?
Right, but you don't know that until you actually.
But you can't do your own diagnostic. You can't say, okay, I think I'm okay because I went outside and got some air.
Look, I do it every day. We all do it every day, but it only takes one little small minute thing to trigger that craziness in any of us, right?
So allow me to. So I think what we're saying here is, and yeah, if something is beyond us and we have some type of imbalance, then it's hard for us to see it. If it's something that's in there, you may need some type of medication. I think what we're talking about here tonight is just people that are trying to make things happen, you know, working, you know, have their families, have their friends, and just are trying to, that aren't diagnosed with anything that's a little deeper than something that we have control over. Because that's also part of mental health. Yeah, you're totally right. Those are different levels of mental health, you know, health, right? But I did find a definition. It's a very simple definition, right? But this simple definition leads to possible outcomes, right? And this is what we should be working on. And then this is what we're going to talk about, certain ways that we can work on this, right? So this is the definition. A person's condition with regards to their psychological and emotional well-being. So your emotions, think about, so if you have control over your emotions, then you're working on your psyche. But how do you do that, right? Whether it's through meditation, whether it's listening to music, whether it's taking long walks, whether it's taking a drive. I think that's where we're going. I
think if anything, Eddie, I think again, you know, just leveraging or using the pandemic as an example, I think it made us either in touch with our emotions or lack of
That's
touch
good.
of your
I
emotions.
agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
So
Totally
because
agree.
and then I think that is a catalyst or a way of saying, you know what, man, I find myself just being extra aggravated for something that I shouldn't be.
For no
Right.
reason at all.
So it's being like we're not self-diagnosing ourselves, but then we're starting to realize there's certain things in our behaviors or habits that are changing, and that we should be able to start catching those. And this, I think, it should lead into, in your self-awareness. I'm like, if I see that I gain an extra 15 to 20 pounds, right? Okay, so that's because obviously everything that the gyms were closing and everything else. But then, if I don't go back and say, you know what, okay, now that everything is back up and open, I should be able to shed those 20 pounds that I gained. But if I'm okay with that, then then something happened, because I shouldn't be okay with that, right? I should be able to go back and say, you know what, there should be motivation for me to go back out there and say, you know what, let me go out there and try and shed those extra pounds. But if I don't have the motivation, if I don't have that drive, then there's a pattern within me that changed, right?
Oh,
Now,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
that's not meant.
That's a long-term effect.
So it is. So these are the signs that we should not neglect. Saying that your inner side is saying, "Hey, listen, you shouldn't be okay with this. You should not be okay with this."
But that goes back to what I said. You got to make sure that you are okay first, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like there should be many signs and behaviors that are propping up that you're not accustomed to, right? Not you can't go out because everything is closed. Is the part that you're settling with things that you never did settle before with.
Guys, this is all intertwined with everything we spoke about in season 1. This has to do a lot with your happiness, with your peace, with your why. Yes. If being fit and having muscles gives you peace of mind, then go ahead, do it. If it doesn't, maybe something else does, right?
Yeah, man.
When I read this definition,
I like that.
It's a simple definition, but it's bigger than those few words, right? What is your emotional happiness? What is your psychological peace? Does it have to do with your family? Keep your eyes on the prize. And what we're saying here is, because the reason we came up with this conversation is because we realize a lot of our peoples are going through it. And we see a lot of things going on, whether it's crime. These are moments that happen that people lose it all, but it's not because they may be even bad people. It's because of the pressures that they're feeling. But if they have a little more control over these things before these moments happen, we wouldn't fall victim to these mishaps that happen. So it goes all the way back to, what is your prize? What is that you want? What is it that you're going to work on for you to be cool? What do you choose for? Do you choose to do this or do you choose to do that? Are you going to get out the car and fight somebody because they cut you off? Or are you going to just wave and say sorry? And let that go, because that's not your battle. How do you prepare yourself for these type of things? Your boss at work, how is it that, are you going to speak to them and be like, you know what, and curse at them? Or are you going to say, you know what, let me take a step back. But that's having control over yourself first.
Sounds like you've been through that journey, right? You made those distinctions.
I'm going through that journey.
Okay. How would you, now that you're going through that journey, and let's say as hypothetically, Manny is not there yet. Manny is still, like at the smallest things, Manny gets fired up. He gets aggravated. So how would you coach him?
Everything that Chuck says it all the time. You have to be comfortable with yourself first. Find yourself first. Be okay with you first, and then you're gonna be okay with everybody else, and you'll make good decisions because you're gonna choose you first, then that.
Yeah. You have to.
But I don't know if I'm answering your question. What I would say is, what I would add on to that answer is analyze yourself. And I guess this is a little bit of what Manny was saying before. Analyze yourself. Are you a happy person? Remember, we only have one life. Is this where we are? Is this where we want to be? If not, then every time you work on yourself, you're working on your mental health.
Yeah, man. Speak
Every
that.
time you say, you know what, I'm gonna go take a jog. It's not maybe so much for the physical part of it, but maybe because it helps you get away. Listen to
Yeah,
that
man.
music, and you have a little alone time. Alone time is good time. Alone time is you time, personal time, just you time. That's fine.
And
But but
everybody
but
should
but
do
you
it.
have to kind of create that.
Everybody should do it.
You have to try to
Right.
create that plan for self, right? So
Yep.
you would have to analyze, like what is it that you do what you do for? You start there, and then you start working towards those things because those are the big prizes, and you're not going to fall victim to these little things on the side that happen every day, because you're going to keep your eyes on the prize, and the eyes may be your family, it may be your child, it may be you, it may be your mom, it may be whoever it may be. So it's intertwined with everything that's in your psyche.
But
Anyway,
I mean that look, that
Yeah.
I agree with everything you just said, but I have to say that, some people I don't think can probably be by themselves,
Then
right?
maybe that's not what they work on.
Or maybe that's not what they want, or like you said, work on.
Right.
Manny, I mean,
Yeah, no, this is good stuff. You guys are blowing my mind. I want to.
but no, I mean, because oh man,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
go ahead.
So no, thank you, Chuck. So a couple of things, right? Let's go back a little bit, right? We are raised by our parents, most of us, right? And we learn the basics, morals, what's right, what's wrong. But nobody gives you a handbook on emotions, how to react, right?
Say that again,
Emotions.
please. Say that again.
Yeah, nobody gives you a handbook on how to deal with situations, right? The
Yeah.
basics up to like 7 years old, they don't do that, right? Do the right thing. Don't hit that kid, right? Your parents kind of give you but after that, you're on your own. Nobody teaches you how to be responsible, able to respond to a situation. Very elementary, like Eddie says, it sounds very basic, but you have to learn, teach yourself, because nobody's teaching you, or take a course or read books on it. If you can control your emotions, oh my God, we're not far away from the animal kingdom, guys, right? If you react on any situation with aggression, that's the simplest, most premature instinct, right? Somebody pushes you, push back. Instead of saying, wait a minute, what happened? Why do I want to push him back? Or learn for the next time that somebody pushes you or harms you. Why am I feeling this? What's causing me to feel this way? Right? And it sounds a little funny because you're not going to stop, somebody's going to punch you, right? But you really do have to understand, it's like, why am I feeling so angry? If you take a second and you breathe in, you breathe out. Breathe in, you breathe out. That kind of controls you, because what's happening is blood is rushing to one side of your brain. It's saying you're in danger, defend yourself. So, but naturally, that's the animal side of us, right? So we want to defend ourselves to protect ourselves from what's happening. But if you relax your body, given that you have the opportunity, right, depending on the situation, you relax your body to a state where you're like, wait a minute, I'm not gonna punch this person back. I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna curse. Why am I feeling? What's causing? Am I vulnerable right now? Is that person gonna harm me? Are they gonna disrespect me by thinking that I'm a suck or a punk? What is it? Once you identify that, for the next situation, you're gonna be more under control, right? For an emotion, right? So the reason I'm making that example is I'm stripping it, right? Because we talk about reactions and how to control ourselves, and it's that simple and that hard at the same time, that difficult. It takes training and a lot of practice. I've been in different situations where my life was at stake. I was going to be in a fight where a guy took out a freaking Rambo knife, and I was able to control myself. And luckily, it diffused, and luckily nothing happened. But it came with age. It didn't happen overnight, because my 16-year-old version of myself would not have. Yeah, go ahead, Ray.
I'm sorry. I just want to jump in there, because you're raising another point that we definitely need to make sure we bring it up to our viewers, right? So, as we were talking about this, right, Manny made some great points, right? He gave us an example, right, that happened a couple of years ago, that's still in practice, right? So, the mental wellness should be incorporated as part of a habit for life, right? Like, it's not something that we should just address at a moment in time or slice in time, right? those are the ones that, you know, you deal with the experts and everything else. Those are they could be very extreme situations where there's a serious breakdown and then you have to, you know, manage other ways. But if we're talking about now, you know, how to continuously make sure that your mental wellness, you know, is at, you know, you're going to have some ups and downs. And as Manny's pointing is, if you have those ups, here are some of the tools that you can use to make sure that your mental wellness does not go above and then goes into a serious situation. If it goes down, there's other ways of doing. So again, one of the things we need to make sure that, you know, our listeners get away from is, this is a way of life that you have to be able to control.
That's right.
And make sure you manage. Right.
Damn, I've been trying to say it for 20 minutes and you sum it up in 2 seconds. What the hell's going on? Nah,
so listen.
Well said, brother. Well said.
So listen.
Chuck, real quick. I'm sorry. I gotta say this because I'm gonna forget.
Yeah, you tend to forget.
There's nothing wrong. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with seeing a specialist. There's a taboo ever since I can remember. Oh, you seeing a psychologist? You're seeing. All of a sudden, you're nuts. You're not crazy if you want to speak to someone. It could be a friend. Hopefully, that friend is, you know, pretty.
Yeah, we have to be careful with that word "crazy" because that should be removed, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? We as humans, we want to put everything in a box so we can understand it, right? So someone comes in, okay, we don't know what he's doing. He's crazy or she's crazy. That's what we do because it's a defense thing with us, right? And we use those words because that's all we've been taught. What I was alluding to was, guys, if there is someone that you need to talk to, go talk. You're doing something. I know, I always tell my wife, me with a significant amount of money or in the right, not even money, because it's not all about money. There's help out there that doesn't call for money, but me with the right resources, luckily I don't feel I'm there. You guys will be the judges of that. But with the right resources, I will speak to someone. I have mentors right now. I have people that I talk to for advice, and I look for their opinion. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. Chuck, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that's so very important. I can't emphasize this enough. Speak to a professional, an unbiased professional that's going to tell you and check you. You know what I'm saying? And when you feel comfortable, speak to your loved one. Say, look, I'm talking to someone to find myself, to get to a better place. There's nothing wrong with that, people. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
And Manny, thank you. That was a great answer, man. You always give them great answers.
Absolutely.
So,
thank you, brother.
And then another thing I think we need to make sure that we also kind of highlight, because, you know, this is something that has been recently in the news. We had some high profile athletes actually come about and talk about their mental healthness and how they actually, now imagine these folks are the top of their, you know, their craft, and they made their own decisions. You know what? I'd rather not compete in this next tournament or even in the Olympics, like Miles or Naomi Osaka, who decided, you know what, for my own health, right?
Yeah, man.
Right? Because this is them taking charge of their own, because organization will just keep on push, with neglect. Again, the word is neglecting.
Yeah, man.
You know, some of these things that are manifesting in front of their eyes. So, you know, if they can do it, we certainly can do it. Right.
Yeah.
It goes back to what Manny says. There's nothing wrong with taking some time off and say, you know what, hey, something is happening here that I really need to, like, you know, pause and reflect and understand exactly what's happening, because, you know, these will have some long-term impacts if not taken care of. That's one thing we need to make sure that people understand the long-term effects of untreated or, you know, unaddressed issues that, you know, for so long, you know, pre-pandemic, you know, we lived with, but now that things have been, you know, somewhat highlighted, we see it on social media.
Yeah.
Let's take a pause and see, is this happening to me? Is this happening to Eddie? Is this happening to Manny? Am I seeing anything different?
Right.
That's another thing too that we have to realize, right? It's not just, so I know we covered on self, and I want to throw that back to you, Charlie, but there's also, okay, if I'm like this, how's everybody else?
Yeah, man. So listen, that just kind of like threw me into my next question. I mean, literally launched me into my next question, because we're going to talk about, you know, some, you know, 5 main signs that, you know, kind of look for to be aware of your own mental awareness.
That's right.
Right. So I pulled it up, and so the first one is excessive paranoia, worry, or anxiety. That's that could be just almost just every day, right? Just being in everyday life, you just being more aware of where you are, right? And then the second one was long-lasting sadness or irritability. That goes back to what you said, right? You're finding yourself being a little more irritated by things more lately, little things that you could just let go.
Out of the ordinary,
Out of the ordinary, yep. And then extreme changes in moods. We've all gone through mood changes, especially in this whole time. You may not realize it, but we've all gone through some mood changes.
That can be because of fatigue too, right? Because you're tired.
Yeah.
You're not getting enough rest. You're doing too much, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then this next one is social withdrawal. I mean, we all had to experience that. But what about if you lived by yourself and you were used to the only time you would be around people is when you went to work? Maybe if you don't have friends. So that's another one. And then this last one is dramatic changes in eating or sleeping patterns. Eating
can I say something? Go ahead.
So one thing that just sparked in my mind when Eddie just said, you're fatigued, right? Now, like I said, if you feel tired in the past, I'll just sit down and then, let me try and recoup, right? That's what we did in the past. I think right now it's actually shining the light that, what you thought was just fatigue could be this.
Yeah.
Or could be that.
Yes.
Right. So, again, just listen to your body, but also, look at other things that could be pointers that in the past was something, it's okay. I don't want to eat today. But then it could be, you didn't eat in 2 days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then go ahead.
No. I was just going to touch on that, but and this is the not everything is sad from the pandemic, in my point of view. Not everything is a negative or not. Man, listen, I enjoy the space. I love my brothers. I love hanging out, but I also love my time at home. I like the fact that I was able to do things. I like the pause. For the first 3 or 4 months, after a while. Full transparency, I did start missing, like, what the heck is going on? Is this thing ever going to be over? Are we going to get back to normal like everybody else? But at first I was like, I have a lot of time in my hands, which I love. And time is the biggest commodity for me, and I learned how to cherish that. And I miss it now. Now we're getting back in the swing of things. I'm showing homes and I'm grinding, and it's like, wow, I got to take care of my house. I got things to do. But what I'm saying is that the flip side to that is that there was a lot of time that I had here in my house, which in turn, whether you admit it or not, we work and we enjoy what we do. But at the same time, we want to make a living to be able to enjoy where we live, so we can make a living. Does that make sense?
Yeah, man.
So how are you going to tie that? How are you going to tie that to these 5 symptoms, right?
Go ahead. No. I was just touching. Sorry, right? I was just touching based on the opposite of it. I shouldn't have, but
no, because the reason why I'm challenging you in that way is that, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, maybe this is something that, like you say, I have more time, right? I could do this and I could do this, right?
Yeah.
So before having more time, were you more stressed?
Probably, yeah.
Right.
Probably more stressed.
So was you
more anxious because of the time that I didn't have?
So was your wellness meter or I guess threshold, was it? You think it was on the higher side, where on the lower side where you were like, I wasn't giving enough time to my family before as I do now.
We're getting too personal.
No, it's not that. It's not that.
No,
it's not that.
I can share.
All I'm saying is this. All I'm trying to highlight is this. Like these. So we need to make sure that again, going back to the question, like, what are you doing in this journey?
Yep.
Yeah, but it's also trying to understand. I'm saying this is a long term, and you're trying to make sure that you incorporate that in your lifestyle. So if you make sure if having more time is what makes you at peace, then make sure you continue that practice. Well, that's what I'm trying to get at.
You touch base, and I Ray, that's what I live by, and that's why I hustle and I move and I rock, because I see that is one of my major whys, to be able to get to a position, get to a stage where I have enough money, enough cash flow that affords me the freedom where I don't have to go to work, where I can say I'm going away for 2 months. Is it easy? No, it takes a lot. You got to establish certain businesses and things like that. And not everybody can carry the conversation because they go, oh my God, you're crazy. You're doing too much. I stay away from those people because that's not me. I know my goal. I know where I want to be at. And I see people that are already there. And I'm like, wow, I envy that because that's one of my whys. I love the fact that the people that I know can say, I'm taking a month off and I'm going to, on vacation. And everything carries it. It's the same. And they're not necessarily flashy people. They're not saying, I got this, I got that. It's just your lifestyle.
So that's a wellness goal. If you were to summarize it, it's one of your wellness
pretty
goals.
Much. Yeah, I
It
guess.
could be.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Eddie?
I don't know, man. I always it always comes down to this for me, and no matter where and what and who, location, position, it always comes down to me understanding, and I know I've said this 10,000 times. If you've been watching and following us, I've said this over and over and over. We only live one time, and we are just as important as the people that we take care of. And our happiness is just as equal as everybody else's in the world. There isn't a better person in the world. There isn't somebody who's inferior to another person. I'm just as equal to anybody you can mention.
Yes, sir.
I go through the same things just as everybody who you know. But I guess what it comes down to, and this is what you were asking, Ray. I'm sorry, Chuck. This is what you were saying is, what would I say to a person who's not sure if they are, if they're going through, if they feel stressed, if they're depressed, if they're constantly sad, if they're constantly angry, if they find themselves in situations constantly, look deep inside, look deep inside, and what is going to bring you happiness? Punching somebody in the face is not going to bring you happiness. Having an altercation, having an altercation, but this is where you got to really look inside, and this is what's going to lead me to what I'm about to do right now, right? I'm looking for a website that can professionally guide people so they can be aware of themselves. Sometimes people need awareness. They don't know, we don't know that we should be focusing on other things. No one should tell you that you are less important than anybody else in the world. It has nothing to do with status. It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with anything. You are just as important. Everybody in the world on this earth, if you're an earthling, then you fall under this category. And there are services out there. If you feel like you too much on one side, if you feel too much down, if you feel too much on the negs, you know what I'm saying? No, you need to be on the positive. You need to be happy. You need to treat yourself. You need to be you. You need to love you. And if you find that you're lacking that happiness inside yourself, then chances are, we can try to figure it out together.
Because listen, at the end of the day, no matter at the end of the day, no matter how high up you are, guess what? When you go home, you're a normal person. They don't give a shit if the president. When you come home, you are whoever you are, right? Because listen, I wanted to say this earlier, but you learn right from wrong. You're not taught right from wrong. You learn right from wrong as a little kid. Some people say, no, you were taught, right from. That's not true. You learn how you learn it as a little kid because as you grow up, you find out the hard way, right? I did something wrong. I'm gonna get in trouble. I do this. I'm gonna be good. So by me saying that, it just all ties in. Just all ties into the whole mental, just mental awareness. So listen, we could talk on and on about this all day.
Wait, hold on.
I do want to mention this website at some point. I want to mention this website.
I got the floor now. I got it, brother. I got the floor now. All right. So
that's a song.
With everything that's happening today, right? We all grew up in a completely different era where social media was not as popular as it is today. The things that we see on TV were somewhat tamed, right? But our younger generation, even as early as 10, right? They're exposed to things that they shouldn't really be exposed to. Now, I want to go back to how are we going to help them navigate through their life and try to either erase some of the horrific things that they could have seen, the bullying that's happening right now, because all of this adds on to, as a human society, species, whatever you want to say, if you were to say, how would you rate our mental awareness or wellness versus yesteryears or before? Where are we? How are we doing?
Failed as
and I want to go back to your point, Eddie, as a society, right? Because if you're not happy, you got to be able to spread this happiness, but also, like, I'm sorry if I see, there's stories where, our kids, again, on social media, right? It was on TikTok where this little boy was playing in his yard, playing basketball. And then his cop car just zipped by and he immediately started hiding. Why? How is that going to impact him growing up? Because he's seen too many things that he's growing up saying, okay, I guess this is how I'm supposed to be portrayed, stereotype, all of these things. So that's why I don't want to, end up on, I want to bring this up because, again,
that's a great point you're making. That's a great point you're making. Whoever's listening to this show right now, we're really trying to reach out to your inner you. We're really trying to say, do you feel anything when we're talking about what we're talking about? Do you feel like you're a happy person? Do you feel like we are talking to you? If that's the case, then look deeper into yourself. It's all about you being a happy individual. It's all about you also giving yourself that importance. If you have lacked that in your past, in your childhood, in your whatever it is, let's think a little bit more now. Let's see. Would you like a little bit more in your life? Where do you want to be? Do you have goals? Is there something holding you back? Then we're talking to you. And we're talking to ourselves. Believe me, I'm talking to me.
Of course, yeah.
While I'm doing this, I'm talking to me because it only makes me better for me to speak about something and also live it. I can't just practice, I can't just preach, but I got to practice what I preach. So I got to make better, right? Manny, go ahead, man.
No. I'm just pointing to knowledge.
Look,
right?
Listen,
that's what it is. We speak from the heart.
Let's kick it up a notch. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. No.
Let's kick it up a notch, right? So, so now I've spoken to myself. I review. I said, okay, I know this is what I have to do to make sure that my psyche, everything is good. Do I stop there, or do I go to my brother or to my neighbor and say, how are you doing? Or do we go to, let's say, the local communities, the leadership? Hey, this is happening to our community. Our kids don't feel safe to go outside and play because of this and this and this.
Do both.
Right? We cannot go to, we cannot get. So again, let's expand the circle of wellness, right? From self to friends, family, community. Because again,
that's such a great point.
Right? Let's make sure that we put the people that are in our favor and look out for us, rather than just somebody come into town, vote for me, I'll some fake promises, and then they move on. But then we're left with the scarf.
That's a tough one, Ray.
We're left with the scarf. I know. But again, knowledge without borders, right? Let's just make sure that we challenge ourselves and also our listeners to make sure that, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Manny said he's good. We're good, I think, because we.
You know what? I'm gonna say something about that. I'm good business. A lot of us are good until we know that we can be better.
Right.
A lot of us are just as good until we say, wow, it could have been better. It could have been. When I say better, I'm not talking about financials. I'm not talking about any of these material things that are made happen. I'm talking about your inner self. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about you acknowledging the fact that maybe you need a little bit more. You want to do a little bit more. You want to live this life a little bit more. You want to do certain things. Again, it's not about the materials, but that might be part of it. And that might be your journey. The only reason we can speak a little bit about this, is because maybe we've experienced certain moments that have made us better because we have fallen and we got up and we say, you know what? Now I know what to do the next time around. But if you stay down, then you're staying down and you're falling victim to the pain and the sorrow and the anger and everything else. And then you're just living in a fog of this anger. This is what we're saying to wake up to. It doesn't have to be like that.